The hospital room was filled with screaming. Blood was everywhere, on the white sheets on the floor, dripping down the side of the bed. Machines beeped wildly, their sounds mixing with the desperate cries of doctors and nurses running in every direction. And in the middle of it all lay Ji-woo Park, the 19-year-old daughter of one of Korea's richest families, dying. Her face was pale, so pale it looked like all the color had been drained from her skin. Her lips were turning blue. Her eyes were half closed, rolling back into her head. The baby inside her was stuck, trapped, and no one knew how to save them both. "We're losing her," a doctor shouted, pressing his hands against Ji-woo's stomach. "The baby's position is impossible. We can't operate. She'll die on the table." Another doctor wiped sweat from his forehead. "If we wait any longer, they'll both die." Standing in the corner of the room, trembling and terrified, was a young black woman named Maya Thompson. She was only 23 years old. She wasn't a surgeon. She wasn't even a real doctor yet. She was just a midwife's daughter, a student who had learned old birthing techniques from her mother back in their small village in Mississippi. But right now, at this moment, she was the only person in the entire hospital who believed she could save Ji-woo's life. Her hands shook as she stepped forward. I think I can help." The head surgeon turned to her, his eyes blazing with anger. "Get out of here. This is not the time for amateurs." Maya's heart pounded so hard she thought it might explode. But she didn't leave. She couldn't. Because deep in her soul, she knew. If she didn't try, both Ji-woo and her baby would be dead in the next 10 minutes. Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. And if you want to know what happens next, you have to keep watching, because what Maya does in the next few minutes will shock the entire world. Let's go back to the beginning. 3 months earlier, Ji-woo Park was living the kind of life most people only dream about. Her father, Mr. Dae-young Park, owned one of the biggest technology companies in South Korea. They had mansions, private jets, yachts, and more money than anyone could ever spend in a lifetime. But Ji-woo wasn't happy. She was trapped. Her father controlled everything. What she wore, where she went, who she talked to. He had already chosen the man she would marry, a cold, older businessman named Mr. Kong, who only cared about her father's money. Ji-woo hated him. One night, at a charity event in Seoul, she met someone who changed everything. His name was Daniel, a kind and handsome volunteer from America. He had warm brown eyes and a smile that made Ji-woo feel safe for the first time in her life. They talked for hours that night. And then they kept talking, secretly, through messages and phone calls, for weeks. Her father would never allow it. Daniel wasn't rich. He wasn't Korean. He was beneath the Park family. But Ji-woo didn't care. For the first time in her life, she felt free. And then, 1 month later, she discovered she was pregnant. Ji-woo's world collapsed. She couldn't tell her father. If he found out, he would disown her. He would force her to get rid of the baby. He might even hurt Daniel. So she kept it a secret. For weeks, she hid her growing belly under loose clothes. She stopped going to family dinners. She avoided everyone. But secrets don't stay hidden forever. One morning, her father's assistant noticed something was wrong. Ji-woo had fainted during a meeting. The assistant rushed her to the hospital. And that's when the doctors discovered the truth. She was 6 months pregnant. When her father found out, he exploded with rage. "You have disgraced this family," he shouted, his face red with fury. "You will get rid of this baby, and you will marry Mr. Kong as planned." Ji-woo sobbed. "No, I won't. This is my baby. I love Daniel." Her father's eyes turned cold. "Then you are no longer my daughter." He stormed out of the room, leaving Ji-woo alone and heartbroken. But things were about to get much, much worse. A few weeks later, Ji-woo started feeling strange. She had terrible pains in her stomach. She couldn't sleep. She could barely breathe. Her father, despite his anger, still cared enough to send her to the best hospital in Seoul, Park Memorial Hospital, a massive building filled with the country's top doctors. The doctors ran tests, and what they found made their faces go pale. The baby was in a breech position, meaning it was upside down, with its feet pointing toward the birth canal instead of its head. But it wasn't just a breech. The baby's body was twisted in a way the doctors had never seen before. The umbilical cord was wrapped around its neck. One of its legs was stuck behind Ji-woo's pelvic bone. "This is impossible," one doctor whispered, staring at the ultrasound screen. "I've never seen a position like this." Another doctor shook his head. "If we try a C-section, the baby's position could cause massive bleeding. She could die on the operating table. But if we wait for a natural birth, the baby will suffocate. They'll both die. They were trapped. No matter what they did, someone was going to die. That's when Maya Thompson entered the story. Maya had been working at the hospital for only 2 weeks. She wasn't a doctor. She was a student, a midwife in training from America, learning under one of the hospital's senior nurses. Her mother, Grace Thompson, had been a midwife in Mississippi for over 30 years. She had delivered hundreds of babies, many in dangerous situations where there were no doctors, no hospitals, no modern equipment. She had taught Maya everything she knew, old techniques passed down through generations, methods that most modern doctors had forgotten. One of those techniques was called the spiral turn, a way of gently twisting a baby's body inside the womb to guide it into the correct position. It was risky. It required perfect timing, incredible skill, and a deep understanding of the baby's body. Most doctors thought it was too dangerous. They said it didn't work. But Grace Thompson had used it dozens of times. And it has saved lives. Maya had watched her mother perform the technique many times as a child. She had practiced it on models and diagrams. But she had never done it on a real person. Until now, when the doctors told Ji-woo that there was no way to save her and her baby, she broke down completely. She screamed. She cried. She begged them to try something, anything. "Please," she sobbed, clutching her swollen belly. "Please don't let my baby die." But the doctors just shook their heads. "We're sorry. There's nothing we can do." Maya stood in the corner of the room, her heart breaking. She had been assigned to assist with Ji-woo's care, but she wasn't supposed to speak. She wasn't supposed to interfere. But she couldn't stay silent. "Excuse me," she said quietly, stepping forward. I think I might know a way." The head surgeon, Dr. Choi, turned to her with a frown. "What are you talking about?" Maya's voice trembled. "There's a technique, an old midwife technique called the spiral turn. My mother used it many times. It can reposition a baby without surgery." Dr. Choi's frown deepened. "That's folklore. It doesn't work. And even if it did, you're not qualified to perform it." "I know," Maya said, her voice growing stronger. "But if we don't try, they're both going to die. What do we have to lose?" Dr. Choi stared at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "Absolutely not. I will not allow an untrained student to experiment on my patient." Maya's heart sank. But then, from the bed, a weak voice spoke. "Let her try." Everyone turned to look at Ji-woo. Her face was pale and soaked with sweat, but her eyes were clear and determined. "I'm going to die anyway, right?" Ji-woo said softly. "So let her try. What do I have to lose?" Dr. Choi opened his mouth to argue, but then he stopped. Because Ji-woo was right. They had no other options. He looked at Maya. "If you do this and something goes wrong, it's on you. Do you understand?" Maya nodded, her hands shaking. "I understand." And that's how, 3 months after meeting Daniel, 3 weeks after being disowned by her father, and 3 minutes after being told she was going to die, Ji-woo Park placed her life, and her baby's life, in the hands of a 23-year-old midwife's daughter from Mississippi. The room fell silent. Maya stepped forward, her heart pounding like a war drum. She placed her hands gently on Ji-woo's belly. And then she began. Maya's hands trembled as she placed them on Ji-woo's swollen belly. The room was dead silent. Every doctor, every nurse, every person in that hospital room held their breath, watching this young black woman who claimed she could do what trained surgeons said was impossible. Dr. Choi stood with his arms crossed, his face tight with doubt. "You have 5 minutes," he said coldly. "If I see any sign that you're making things worse, I'm stopping this immediately." Maya nodded, trying to steady her shaking hands. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, remembering everything her mother had taught her. "Listen to the baby, Maya," her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "Feel its heartbeat. Feel its position. The baby will tell you what it needs. You just have to listen." Maya pressed her palms gently against Ji-woo's stomach and began to feel. She could sense the baby's tiny body beneath the skin, its head up near Ji-woo's ribs, its feet tangled near the birth canal, the umbilical cord wrapped dangerously around its neck. It was worse than she thought. One wrong move, and the cord could tighten. The baby would suffocate in seconds. "I can do this," Maya whispered to herself. "I can do this." Maya's fingers moved slowly across Ji-woo's belly, searching for the exact position of the baby's shoulders. This was the key. If she could find the shoulders, she could begin the spiral turn, a gentle, careful rotation that would guide the baby into the correct position. But it had to be perfect. Too fast, and the cord would strangle the baby. Too slow, and Ji-woo would lose too much blood. She had maybe 3 minutes before it was too late. What are you doing? Dr. Choi demanded, stepping closer. I don't see anything happening. Please, Maya said without opening her eyes. I need silence. I have to feel the baby's heartbeat. Dr. Choi frowned but said nothing. Maya pressed her ear against Jiwoo's stomach. Through the layers of skin and muscle, she could hear it, a faint, rapid thump 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 thump. The baby's heartbeat. It was fast. Too fast. The baby was in distress. Okay, little one, Maya whispered. I'm going to help you. Just trust me. She placed both hands flat on Jiwoo's belly, one on each side. Then slowly, so slowly it looked like she wasn't moving at all, she began to push. Not hard. Not forcefully. Just a gentle, steady pressure, guiding the baby's body in a smooth, spiraling motion. Jiwoo gasped. What? What is she doing? It feels strange. Stay calm, Maya said softly. I need you to breathe slowly. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Can you do that for me? Jiwoo nodded, her eyes wide with fear, and began to breathe. The seconds ticked by like hours. Maya's hands moved in tiny, precise circles, each movement calculated and deliberate. She could feel the baby shifting, just a little, beneath her palms. Come on, Maya thought desperately. Come on, baby. Turn for me. Just a little more. Suddenly, one of the machines in the room started beeping wildly. Her blood pressure is dropping, a nurse shouted. We're losing her. Dr. Choi grabbed Maya's shoulder. That's it. I'm stopping this. You're making it worse. No, Maya cried, pulling away from him. I'm almost there. Just give me 1 more minute. Please. Dr. Choi hesitated. He looked at the monitor. Jiwoo's heart rate was dangerously low. But the baby's heart rate, it was starting to slow down too. If he stopped Maya now, they would both die anyway. 1 minute, he growled. That's all you get. Maya didn't waste a single second. She pressed her hands against Jiwoo's belly again, this time with more confidence. She could feel it now. The baby was responding. Its little body was beginning to turn. She pushed gently on the baby's left shoulder, guiding it in a clockwise spiral. At the same time, she used her other hand to support the baby's head, keeping it from pressing against Jiwoo's ribs. And then click. It was like a puzzle piece falling into place. The baby's body shifted. Its head dropped down. Its feet moved up. The umbilical cord loosened from around its neck. Maya's eyes flew open. It worked, she breathed. It worked. Dr. Choi rushed forward and pressed his stethoscope against Jiwoo's belly. His eyes went wide with shock. The baby, it's in the correct position, he whispered, almost unable to believe it. How did you? But there was no time for questions. We need to induce labor now. Dr. Choi shouted to the nurses. Get the delivery room ready. Move. The room exploded into action. Nurses grabbed equipment. Doctors barked orders. Jiwoo was lifted onto a stretcher and rushed down the hallway toward the delivery room. Maya followed, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst out of her chest. I did it, she thought, tears streaming down her face. I actually did it. But the battle wasn't over yet. 20 minutes later, Jiwoo was in the delivery room, screaming in pain as her body prepared to give birth. Push, Dr. Choi commanded. Push as hard as you can. Jiwoo gritted her teeth and pushed with all her strength. Sweat poured down her face. Her hands gripped the sides of the bed so tightly her knuckles turned white. I can't, she sobbed. I can't do it. Maya stepped forward and grabbed Jiwoo's hand. Yes, you can, she said firmly. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You survived your father. You survived losing Daniel. You survived an impossible pregnancy. You can do this. Jiwoo looked into Maya's eyes, and something changed. A fire ignited deep inside her. She wasn't going to give up. Not now. Not after everything she'd been through. Okay, Jiwoo whispered. Okay, I can do this. She took a deep breath, and pushed, and pushed, and pushed. And then, at 11:47 p.m. on a cold October night, a tiny, beautiful baby girl slid into Dr. Choi's waiting hands. The room fell silent. The baby didn't cry. Dr. Choi's face went pale. She's not breathing. Maya's heart stopped. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Come on, baby. Breathe. Please breathe. Dr. Choi rubbed the baby's back, trying to stimulate her lungs. Nothing. He turned the baby upside down and patted her tiny back. Nothing. Panic flooded the room. And then, Weawaho, the baby let out the loudest, most beautiful cry anyone had ever heard. The entire room erupted in cheers. Jiwoo burst into tears, reaching desperately for her daughter. Let me see her. Let me hold her. Dr. Choi placed the tiny, wriggling baby on Jiwoo's chest. The baby's eyes were closed, her little fists waving in the air, her cries filling the room with the sound of life. She's perfect, Jiwoo sobbed, kissing her daughter's forehead over and over again. She's perfect. My little miracle. Maya stood back, tears streaming down her face, her heart overflowing with joy. We did it, she thought. We actually did it. Just as the room began to calm down, the door burst open. A tall, furious man in an expensive suit stormed in, his face twisted with rage. It was Mr. Dae-young Park, Jiwoo's father. And he was not happy. What is the meaning of this? He roared, his voice shaking the walls. I told you to get rid of that baby. Why is it still alive? Jiwoo clutched her baby tighter, her eyes blazing with defiance. She's my daughter, and you will never take her from me. Mr. Park's face turned red. You are no daughter of mine. You have disgraced this family. That baby is a disgrace. And I will make sure she never sees the light of day. He took a step toward the bed, but Maya stepped in front of him. You'll have to go through me first, she said quietly, her voice steady and strong. Mr. Park stared at her in shock. Who do you think you are? Maya met his gaze without flinching. I'm the woman who just saved your daughter's life. And I won't let you hurt her or her baby. The room fell silent. Mr. Park's hands clenched into fists. His eyes burned with fury. And then, slowly, he turned and walked out of the room, slamming the door behind him. But everyone in that room knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. The hospital room was quiet now. Too quiet. Jiwoo lay in her bed, holding her baby girl close to her chest. The tiny infant slept peacefully, wrapped in a soft pink blanket, completely unaware of the storm brewing around her. Maya sat in a chair beside the bed, exhausted but unable to leave. Something told her that Jiwoo wasn't safe yet. Not with a father like Mr. Park. Thank you, Jiwoo whispered, her voice barely audible. Thank you for saving us. Maya smiled softly. You don't have to thank me. You did all the hard work. You're the one who fought to bring her into this world. Jiwoo looked down at her daughter, tears streaming down her face. I don't even have a name for her yet. Everything happened so fast. You'll find the perfect name, Maya said gently. When the time is right, you'll know. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. Safe. Like maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. But that feeling didn't last long. The door suddenly burst open with a loud bang. Mr. Park stormed back into the room, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him were two large security guards in black suits, their faces cold and emotionless. And beside them was a thin man in glasses carrying a briefcase, a lawyer. Get away from my daughter, Mr. Park commanded, pointing at Maya. Maya stood up slowly, her heart racing. I'm not going anywhere. Mr. Park's eyes narrowed. You are a nobody. A student. You have no authority here. Security, remove her from this room. Now! The two guards stepped forward, reaching for Maya's arms. Wait! Jiwoo cried out, clutching her baby tighter. Don't touch her. She saved my life. She saved my baby's life. That baby should never have been born, Mr. Park said coldly. And now, I'm going to fix this mistake. He turned to the lawyer. Mr. Han explained the situation. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and pulled out a stack of papers from his briefcase. Miss Jiwoo Park, he said in a flat, emotionless voice. According to Korean law, you are still a minor until you turn 20 years old. As your legal guardian, your father has the right to make all medical and legal decisions on your behalf. Jiwoo's face went pale. What are you saying? What he's saying, Mr. Park interrupted, is that you have no legal right to keep that baby. I am your guardian. And I have decided that the child will be given up for adoption immediately. No, Jiwoo screamed, holding her baby so tightly the infant began to whimper. You can't do that. She's mine. She's my daughter. She is a mistake, Mr. Park said harshly. And I will not allow her to ruin the Park family name. You will give her up, and you will marry Mr. Kong as planned. End of discussion. Maya felt rage boiling inside her chest. You can't just take a baby away from its mother. That's inhuman. Mr. Park turned to her with ice-cold eyes. This is none of your business, foreigner. You have no right to interfere in our family matters. I have every right to speak up when I see something wrong. Maya shot back. That baby is a living, breathing person. She's not a mistake. She's not something you can just throw away. Mr. Park's face twisted with fury. Security. I said remove her. Now! The two guards grabbed Maya's arms and began dragging her toward the door. No. Stop. Let her go. Jiwoo sobbed, trying to get out of bed, but her body was too weak from the delivery. Maya struggled against the guard's grip. Jiwoo, don't give up. Fight for your baby. Don't let him win. But the guards were too strong. They pulled Maya out of the room and slammed the door shut behind them. Inside the room, Jiwoo was left alone with her father, the lawyer, and her sleeping baby. Mr. Park walked slowly toward the bed, his footsteps echoing in the silent room. You have brought shame to this family, he said quietly, his voice filled with venom. Your mother would be disgusted if she were still alive to see what you've become. Jiwoo's tears flowed freely. Mama would have loved this baby. She would have loved her with all her heart. Your mother is dead, Mr. Park said flatly. And I am all you have left. So you will do as I say. You will give up this child. You will marry Mr. Kong. And you will forget this foolish mistake ever happened. Jiwoo looked down at her baby, her heart shattering into a million pieces. I can't, she whispered. I can't give her up. She's a part of me. Then you are no longer a part of this family, Mr. Park said coldly. He turned to the lawyer. Mr. Han, prepare the adoption papers. I want this matter resolved within 24 hours. Yes, sir, the lawyer said, pulling out more documents. Jiwoo's mind raced. She had no money, no power, no way to fight back. Her father controlled everything, her bank accounts, her home, her entire life. But then, deep inside her chest, something stirred. It was the same fire that had burned when she first met Daniel. The same fire that had kept her alive through the impossible pregnancy. The same fire that had given her the strength to push through the delivery. She looked her father straight in the eyes. No, she said firmly. Mr. Park froze. What did you say? I said no, Jiwoo repeated, her voice growing stronger. I'm not giving up my baby. I'm not marrying Mr. Kong. And I'm not letting you control my life anymore. Mr. Park's face turned bright red. You ungrateful child. After everything I've given you. After everything you've given me nothing but pain. Jiwoo shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. You never loved me. You only cared about your money and your reputation. Well, I don't care about any of that anymore. I'd rather be poor and free than rich and miserable. Mr. Park's hand shot out and slapped Jiwoo across the face. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. Jiwoo's cheek burned with pain, but she didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She just stared at her father with defiance blazing in her eyes. You can hit me, she said quietly. You can threaten me. You can take away my money and my name. But you will never take away my daughter. Before Mr. Park could respond, the door flew open again. Everyone turned to see who had entered. It was a young man with kind brown eyes and messy hair, wearing jeans and a worn jacket. He was out of breath, his face covered in sweat, like he had been running for miles. It was Daniel. Jiwoo, he gasped, rushing to her bedside. I came as soon as I heard. Are you okay? Is the baby? He stopped mid-sentence when he saw the tiny infant in Jiwoo's arms. His eyes filled with tears. Is that our daughter? He whispered. Jiwoo nodded, sobbing with relief. Yes, she's ours. Daniel gently touched the baby's tiny hand, and the infant's fingers wrapped around his thumb. In that moment, his entire world changed. This wasn't just a baby. This was his daughter. His family. She's perfect, Daniel breathed. She's absolutely perfect. How touching, Mr. Park said sarcastically. The father finally arrives. Tell me, boy, what do you think you can offer my daughter? You have no money, no status, no future. Daniel stood up and faced Mr. Park without fear. You're right. I don't have money. I don't have a fancy house or a big company. But I have something you'll never have. Oh, Mr. Park sneered. And what's that? Love, Daniel said simply. I love Jiwoo. And I love our daughter. And I will work every single day for the rest of my life to give them the best life I can. That's more than you've ever done. Mr. Park's face turned purple with rage. You arrogant little. Father, stop, Jiwoo interrupted. She looked at Daniel, then at her father, then down at her sleeping baby. And in that moment, she made the hardest decision of her life. I'm leaving, she said quietly. Mr. Park's eyes widened. What? I'm leaving, Jiwoo repeated louder this time. I don't want your money. I don't want your house or your cars or your company. I just want my daughter and the man I love. So I'm leaving. Tonight. You're insane, Mr. Park hissed. You'll be homeless. Penniless. You'll come crawling back to me within a week. Maybe, Jiwoo said with a sad smile. But at least I'll be free. Outside the room, Maya had been pacing back and forth in the hallway, desperately trying to figure out how to help Jiwoo. The two security guards stood blocking the door, refusing to let her back in. But Maya wasn't giving up. She pulled out her phone and quickly dialed her mother's number. "Mama?" Maya said when Grace Thompson answered. "I need your help. Right now." "What's wrong, baby?" Grace asked, her voice filled with concern. Maya quickly explained the entire situation, Jiwoo the baby, Mr. Park's threats. Grace was silent for a moment. Then she said, "Listen carefully, Maya. That girl needs somewhere safe to go. Somewhere her father can't find her. Do you understand?" "Yes," Maya said. "But where?" "Our church," Grace said firmly. "Pastor Kim runs a shelter for women in crisis. It's hidden. It's safe. And they'll protect her. I'll call him right now and tell him you're coming." "Thank you, Mama," Maya whispered, tears of relief streaming down her face. She hung up and turned to the security guards. "I need to get back in that room. Now." "No," one of the guards said flatly. Maya narrowed her eyes. "Fine. Then I'll just have to go around you." Before the guards could react, Maya ran down the hallway, turned a corner, and found a back entrance to the hospital room through the nurse's supply closet. She slipped inside quietly and found Jiwoo, Daniel, and the baby preparing to leave. "Maya," Jiwoo gasped. "How did you?" "No time to explain," Maya said quickly. "I have a plan to get you out of here safely. But we have to move now, before your father realizes what's happening." Daniel nodded. "Let's go." Jiwoo wrapped her baby tightly in the blanket, kissed her tiny forehead, and whispered, "Hold on, little one. We're going to be free." And together, the three of them slipped out of the hospital room, down the back staircase, and into the cold night air. Behind them, Mr. Park's furious shouts echoed through the hospital halls. But they didn't look back. They just kept running. The cold October wind bit at their faces as Maya, Jiwoo, Daniel, and the baby rushed through the dark streets of Seoul. Jiwoo's body was still weak from giving birth just hours earlier. Every step sent sharp pains through her stomach, but she gritted her teeth and kept moving. She had to. For her daughter. Daniel held Jiwoo's arm, supporting her weight as they ran. Maya led the way, her phone pressed to her ear as she spoke quickly to Pastor Kim from the shelter. "We're about 10 minutes away," Maya said breathlessly. "Is everything ready?" "Yes," Pastor Kim's calm voice came through the phone. "I have a room prepared. You'll be safe here. Just hurry." Behind them, in the distance, they could hear shouting. Car engines roared to life. Mr. Park had discovered they were gone, and he was coming after them. "Faster," Maya urged. "We have to move faster." "I'm trying," Jiwoo gasped, her legs trembling. The baby began to cry in her arms, sensing her mother's fear. Shoo, it's okay, my love," Jiwoo whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Mama's got you. Everything's going to be okay." But she wasn't sure if she believed her own words. They turned down a narrow alley, their footsteps echoing off the brick walls. Maya spotted a small, humble church at the end of the street, its wooden cross barely visible in the darkness. "There," Maya pointed. "That's it. We're almost there." They stumbled up to the church door, and Maya pounded on it desperately. "Pastor Kim. It's Maya. Open up. Please." The door swung open immediately. A kind-faced elderly man with gray hair and gentle eyes stood in the doorway. "Quickly, come inside," Pastor Kim said, ushering them in. "You're safe now." The moment they stepped inside, the warmth of the church enveloped them like a protective blanket. Jiwoo collapsed onto a wooden bench, clutching her baby tightly, her entire body shaking with exhaustion and relief. "We made it," Daniel breathed, kneeling beside Jiwoo and wrapping his arms around her. "We actually made it." Pastor Kim locked the door behind them and pulled down the shades. "You can rest here as long as you need," he said gently. "No one will find you. You have my word." Jiwoo looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Pastor Kim led them to a small room in the back of the church. It wasn't much, just a simple bed, a wooden crib, and a few blankets, but to Jiwoo it felt like paradise. She carefully laid her baby in the crib and watched as the tiny infant's breathing slowly calmed. The baby's eyes fluttered closed, and within moments she was asleep. "She's so beautiful," Daniel whispered, staring at his daughter in wonder. "I can't believe she's ours." "She is," Jiwoo said softly, taking Daniel's hand. "And no one is going to take her from us. Ever." Maya stood by the door, watching them with a smile. But in the back of her mind, she knew this wasn't over. Mr. Park was powerful. He had money, connections, and lawyers. He wouldn't give up easily. As if reading her thoughts, Pastor Kim walked over and placed a gentle hand on Maya's shoulder. "You did a brave thing tonight," he said quietly. "But you know this is just the beginning, don't you?" Maya nodded. "I know. Mr. Park will keep looking for them. He won't stop until he gets what he wants. Then we'll have to be smarter than him," Pastor Kim said with a determined smile. "And luckily, we have something he doesn't have." "What's that?" Maya asked. "Faith, hope, and love," Pastor Kim said. "Those things are more powerful than all the money in the world." 3 days passed. Ji-woo slowly regained her strength. She spent every moment with her daughter, feeding her, singing to her, watching her sleep. Daniel stayed by her side, learning how to change diapers, how to hold the baby properly, how to be a father. Maya visited them every day, bringing food, supplies, and updates from the outside world. On the 4th day, something happened. Maya arrived at the church with a worried expression on her face. "What's wrong?" Ji-woo asked immediately, sensing something was off. Maya hesitated. "Your father, he's been searching everywhere for you. He's offering a huge reward to anyone who can find you. And he's threatening legal action against the hospital for letting you escape." Ji-woo's face went pale. "What about Dr. Choi? Is he okay?" "He's fine," Maya said quickly. "But your father is getting desperate. He's hired private investigators. It's only a matter of time before." Bang, bang, bang. The sound of fists pounding on the church door echoed through the building. Everyone froze. "Open this door," a harsh voice shouted from outside. "I know they're in there." It was Mr. Park. Ji-woo's eyes went wide with terror. She grabbed her baby and held her close. No, he can't be here. He can't. Stay here," Pastor Kim said firmly. "I'll handle this." He walked to the front of the church and opened the door just a crack. Mr. Park stood on the other side, flanked by his security guards and lawyer. His face was twisted with fury. "Where is my daughter?" Mr. Park demanded. "I don't know what you're talking about," Pastor Kim said calmly. "Don't lie to me, old man," Mr. Park snarled. "I know she's here. I have witnesses who saw her come to this church. Now open this door, or I'll have my men break it down." Pastor Kim didn't budge. "This is a house of God. You have no authority here." Mr. Park laughed bitterly. "God? You think God cares about a disobedient daughter and her illegitimate child? I am her father. I have legal rights. Now step aside." "No," Pastor Kim said firmly. Mr. Park's face turned red with rage. He turned to his security guards. "Break down the door." But before they could move, another voice rang out from inside the church. "Stop!" Everyone turned. Ji-woo stood in the doorway, her baby in her arms, her chin held high. "I'm here, Father," she said quietly. "You don't need to break anything. I'll talk to you." Mr. Park pushed past Pastor Kim and stormed into the church. "Finally," he said coldly. "You've come to your senses." "I'm not coming back," Ji-woo said firmly. "If that's what you're hoping for." Mr. Park's eyes narrowed. "You have no choice. You're my daughter. That baby is my responsibility. You will come home, give up the child, and marry Mr. Kong. End of discussion." "No," Ji-woo said, her voice steady and strong. "I'm not a child anymore. I'm a mother. And I'm making my own choices from now on." "You're making a mistake," Mr. Park hissed. "That boy has nothing to offer you. You'll end up poor, struggling, miserable." "Maybe," Ji-woo interrupted. "But I'll be happy. And that's something I never was living with you." Mr. Park's face twisted with pain, just for a moment, before hardening again. "So that's it? You're choosing him over your own father." "I'm choosing love over money," Ji-woo said softly. "I'm choosing freedom over control. And I'm choosing my daughter over everything else." She looked down at her baby and smiled. "I've decided on a name for her. Hope. Her name is Hope. Because that's what she represents, hope for a better future." Mr. Park stared at his daughter for a long moment. His hands clenched into fists. His jaw tightened. And then slowly, something inside him seemed to break. "Your mother," he said quietly, his voice cracking, "would have loved her. She would have loved Hope." Ji-woo's eyes filled with tears. "I know." Mr. Park looked at his granddaughter, really looked at her, for the first time. He saw her tiny hands, her peaceful sleeping face, her mother's eyes, and for just a moment his cold heart softened. "I lost your mother 5 years ago," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "And now I'm losing you too." "You don't have to," Ji-woo said gently. You could be part of our lives. You could know your granddaughter. But only if you accept us for who we are." Mr. Park was silent for a long time. Finally, he turned and walked toward the door. Everyone held their breath. He paused at the doorway and looked back at Ji-woo one last time. "I'll have my lawyer draw up papers transferring a trust fund into your name," he said quietly. "Enough to take care of you and the baby. But that's all you'll get from me. No family name. No company. No inheritance." Ji-woo nodded. "That's all I need. Thank you, Father." Mr. Park's face was unreadable. "Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it because your mother would have wanted me to." And with that, he walked out of the church and disappeared into the night. The small apartment was filled with laughter and sunshine. Ji-woo sat on the floor, watching as baby Hope tried to crawl for the first time. The 6-month-old wiggled and squirmed, determined to move forward. "Come on, Hope," Daniel cheered, clapping his hands. "You can do it." Hope's tiny hands pushed against the floor, and she moved forward 1 inch. Then another. Then another. "She's doing it," Ji-woo cried with joy. "She's crawling." There was a knock at the door. Daniel opened it to find Maya standing there with a huge smile on her face, holding a certificate in her hands. "I passed," Maya announced proudly. "I officially graduated from midwife school. I'm a certified midwife now." "Maya," Ji-woo jumped up and hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you," Maya said, looking at Hope with love in her eyes. "You and this little miracle reminded me why I wanted to do this in the first place, to help bring life into the world." The three of them sat together on the floor, watching Hope continue her crawling journey across the room. "You know what I realized?" Ji-woo said softly. "A year ago, I thought my life was over. I thought I had lost everything. My family, my freedom, my future. But now I have everything that truly matters." She looked at Daniel, then at Maya, then at her beautiful daughter. "I have love. I have hope. And I have a future worth living." Daniel squeezed her hand. "We're going to build an amazing life together. All of us." And as the afternoon sun streamed through the windows, filling the little apartment with golden light, Ji-woo knew in her heart that he was right. They had survived the impossible. And now they were ready to live. The end. This is the power of love. The power of hope. The power of never giving up, even when the world tells you it's impossible. Thank you so much for watching this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to this channel to support our growth. Hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message, and drop a comment letting us know what you thought. Where are you watching from? We love hearing from our viewers around the world. Until next time, remember, no matter how impossible things seem, there is always hope.